Good day, grade 12 students. Welcome back to EAPP class. Last time, you learned how to write a thesis statement, create an outline, and write an essay. This week, you are going to learn how to write a balanced review or critic. Do you have any idea about critic? Well, I guess you have written a one before. Writing a critic is a challenging task. It involves a process of summarizing and evaluating a work or concept. But before we have a further discussion of the lesson, you should be able to write an objective or balanced review or critic about a particular work after the end of this lesson. Are you ready? Let's go! So what do you need to convey? Critics are important rhetorical pattern in academic writing as they present a balanced view of things. Critics provide background information for the readers to grasp the issue raised. They are based not only on personal perspective but should also be grounded on actual observations. Consider the following tips in developing your critic. First, provide background information by including central ideas of the book, concept, event, or movie. And relate your critic to greater realities or on wider scheme of things. Remember that facts and your opinions should be mixed together in your critic in a balanced way. You should also show the positive side and the negative side of a particular work. The main purpose of evaluation is to assess the usefulness or impact of a work in a particular field. So, what is the difference between critic and usual essay that you write? Well, there's a big difference between the two in terms of its critical approaches. Critical approaches, sometimes called lenses, are different perspectives we can consider when looking at a piece or several pieces of literature. Criticism, on the other hand, is an intellectual exercise. It is an exchange of informal opinion about a subject for review. The common literary criticisms by Tandok 2016 are presented below. So we have formalist, biographical, historical, gender, psychological, and sociological approaches. First, formalist. In this approach, you need to focus your analysis on the formal feature of the subject, rather than the profile of the creator. You need to establish how one element works together with other elements to achieve the effect to the audience. Next, biographical. By looking into the biography of the creator, you will understand how his or her life shaped and influenced the work of art. Next, historical. This is the analysis of social, cultural, and intellectual contexts. In writing a historical criticism, you need to relate how the time and place of creation affected the meaning of the subject. Next, gender approach. This is how sexual identity influences the creation and reception of the subject. Feminist critics carefully examine how the images of men and women reflect or reject social forces that have historically kept the sexes from achieving total equality. Next, psychological approach. It focuses on human beings' unconscious mind, fear, hidden desires, and etc. It involves analysis of three elements. First, it investigates the creative process of the artist. Second, it determines the nature of the literary genius. And lastly, how the concepts relate to normal mental functions. And lastly, we have sociological approach. It considers the cultural, economic, and political context in which the subject is created. It explores the relationship between the subject and the creator. So those are the common literary criticisms by Tandok 2016. Points to remember. Like an essay, a critic has three parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. Typically, the introduction is short, and you should name the work being reviewed, as well as the date it was created and the name of the author or creator. Next, describe the main argument or the purpose of the work. Then explain the context in which the work was created. This may be a social or political context, or the relationship between the work and the creator's life experience. Lastly, have a concluding sentence that signposts what your evaluation of the work will be. Next, the body. The body should explain the summary and evaluation of the subject applying the different approaches. So this section should give a detailed assessment of the different elements of the work or how the creator was able to achieve the purpose. So for example, you may evaluate a story's plot structure, characterization, and setting. Or for an artwork, like painting, you will evaluate its composition, brush strokes, color and light, and etc. Remember that a critical evaluation should deconstruct the work and identify both strengths and weaknesses. It should examine the work's purpose. So your evaluation should be written in formal academic style and it is logically presented. So provide evidence from the work itself, such as quote or example. And you should also cite evidences from related sources. And lastly, the conclusion. So the conclusion should provide a statement of the overall evaluation, summary of the key reasons, and recommendations. In general, these are the things that you should remember. Provide sense of ideas you want to tackle. So what are some problems people face in their daily lives? What are some healthy debated topics in the community? Provide summary of the concept and provide the strengths and weaknesses. So remember that this is challenging and requires tact. And lastly, include final recommendations of the author. So is the work a good investment of time, effort, or money? So what background knowledge does one need to see or use? So please note the following. Take what's useful. Get biased feedback slide off your back. And also, don't forget to acknowledge sources. Of course, in writing, grammar is very important. So you need to remember the following tips. Use active voice. Remember the simple rule for your sentences. Subject plus verb plus object. So using active voice easily directs your message towards the readers, laying the foundation of clear communication of thoughts. Avoid dangling modifiers. Avoid confusion. Use the parts of speech properly. Incorporate the correct tenses. Make use of transition signals. Present your ideas cohesively using conjunctions or transition signals. It will create a good flow of your thoughts and observations. Use proper pronouns. So this will help you deliver your work without much time and effort and to produce a more conversational critic. And lastly, prepositions matter. They locate and express movements as well as lapse in time. So remember that these are important as any other elements of English language. So you will be guided by this checklist by SiteWrite in writing your critic. And for this week, your tasks are the following. Read an example of critic in your book or on the internet, and watch the film posted at the Google Classroom and write a critic or movie review. So you may consult your teacher while writing your draft. So that ends our lesson for today. Below are the references I used for this lesson. If you have questions, please send a message at yatimbreza@moy.edu.ph. Have a great day!